on New Year's Day, I will be with you again. Oh, I better close some things down. My CPU usage is high. That's not good. That's code for that's not good. Hang on. What do I need to close down then? And close down that video. And close that. Well, hello. Hello, Katie Hotz. Hello, Melbourne Dave. How are we doing? What's happening? I need to figure out why my CPU usage is high. Just checking I don't have Audacity running in the background, because that wouldn't be the first time. Hello, Peter. How be thee? What else have I got running? Hang on. I will begin again. I thought I'd go live because it's all doom and gloom and deeply depressing and downright scary at the moment. So I thought I'd come and say hi. I've not been on for a few days. I just recorded my first Zoom interview for radio of the year. I couldn't have done it with a better person. It lasted over 2.5 hours without any music in the middle. I'm going to have to edit that down. Well, you orange thing has his Twitter account locked for... Oh, the orange thing. The, was it I called him the first time? The tangerine tinted overinflated ego, I believe was the term that I used. And then the following week I called him Tango Man. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody other than anyone in the UK, but we used to have adverts on television for a soft drink called Tango. And it was like an orange fizzy drink. I like Fanta and high cogent. And the advert was like a guy standing in the street, and then this wee orange man would come over and just like slap him across the chops. And the catchphrase was, "You know when you've been tangoed." And it was a little orange man. So that's why I called him Tango Man on the radio. Because I can. Anyway, never mind that. Let's not talk about the man with the tiny hands. Let's talk about something else. No COVID-19 cases here today. Excellent. That's a little bit of good news. That's reminded me I was to contact a radio station in Oz. A guy reached out to me. I forgot to reply to him. I can't remember where it is. You can't call in from Periscope. I'm on Haps. Anyway, it's somewhere between Sydney and Brisbane. I'll have to go back onto Google Maps and find out the location. I've completely forgotten where the radio station is. Wooga. I know where it is, but I've forgotten what it's called. Boogie Loogie. I don't bloody know. Anyway, I was going to go that way for my tea, but I've actually put it on the desk in front of me for a change. How is your night going? Or day or evening or whatever it is? How's your day going? Tell your Auntie Helen all about it, what's been happening. Do you know what? I feel like I need to Google it again and find out where the hell it is, because it's going to bug me. Woogaloo, boogie woogaloo. Let's check this. Hang on. Wooga, booga, wooga, looga. Wooga, woom, woom, woom. Hello, Amarillo. Woolulumulumululu. That's a Jean-Michel Jarre track. It's definitely got a G in it. Woogie boogie loogie something. No sense of time. I don't think anybody does, but I think that a lot of that is not just to do with the lockdown. I think a lot of it's to do with, Christmas and New Year as well. Everybody's systems are messed up. What is the name of that place? Hang on. I can't get into that for some reason. That's slightly annoying. Oh well. Very quiet day. Quiet's better than stressful. Has my brain melted? Oh, hang on. Has that come through from Facebook? Are there any Haps lads in at the moment? Did Peter leave? That's a bit exciting. Hi, Claire, by the way. Happy New Year. You need me to voice message you the name. I need to look up the name. I've forgotten what the name actually is. That's really exciting because the comments haven't been coming through from the Facebook pages. So if we're seeing comments from Facebook, I'm actually a little bit excited about that. I mean, not excited to the extent where I've got like damp knickers or anything, but it's quite exciting. Hang on. I'm trying to get into my notifications to get a hold of the guy, to find the guy that messaged me. Can't find it. Is the answer to the end of Perry? Is the answer to the end of Perry? What? Hello, St. Petersburg. Welcome. Hang on. I need to open it up. Woolgoolga is the name of the place. Woolgoolga. It's obviously an Aboriginal name. Woolgoolga. You're all going to sleep better tonight knowing that now. You're all dying to know the name of the place at the radio station. Woolgoolga. Woolgoolga. There we go. I'll remember that. Not Wooga Booga Loogaloo, after all. Haps is the answer. I don't know what the answer is. It's an option. It's an option and it's got a lot of potential. A lot of potential. And thankfully, I haven't come across any of the assholes from Periscope yet. I realise that they'll probably migrate en masse when Perry ends, but so far, fortunately, yeah, I'll move on. I'll move swiftly along. The thing I like about Haps is theoretically it can broadcast everywhere all at the same time. You can multicast this out. So it's Facebook, it's also Twitter, it's also YouTube, it's also, at the moment, Periscope, until that is no longer the case. I don't know what will happen when Periscope ends, if we'll lose all of the followers from there. And also, my Twitter account's different to my Periscope account. So I should still be able to cast to Twitter though, because that's the one that's hooked up. I'm thinking out loud. We may never have the trolls here as we did on Periscope. I really hope not. I think Haps are pretty on the ball at keeping their eyes open, to be fair to them. Made so many friends on Perry, I don't want it to end. I have met some amazing people from Periscope, but I've also come across a massive amount of assholes. And the ones that I've made friends with, I'll continue to talk to off the app. And for me, it feels like a clean break. You know? Particularly the last 18 months or so, I've been quite... I don't know if I want to use the word stressful, but I haven't been scoping or broadcasting to nearly the same extent. And I don't know if you know how much has gone on, but out of the UK scopers, I've probably had it the hardest. Pretty relentless. Death threats and all sorts. It's not nice. The problem with Periscope is it's very much like a school playground. And even the people who would ordinarily just stay on the sidelines will join in so that they're not targeted next. You know? It's like bullying in the school playground, essentially. That's what it is. Of course, I've never wanted to be part of anybody's clique, so that makes me a target. Because I won't be part of their fucking clique. Anyway, this is meant to be a good, upbeat scope, not a miserable, depressing one. I'm calling it a scope. It's not even a scope. I suppose it sort of is a scope because it's going out on Periscope. I'm talking to you on Periscope. But it's a broadcast. We have to stop calling them scopes. I don't know why I just did that weird farty sound into the mic. I've no idea.
Currently working on lots of new music and hopefully we'll release it in 2021.
I need to do my playlist and I need to record tomorrow's show. I haven't done that yet. I have recorded an interview, but that's not going out tomorrow. So I'll need to record tomorrow's show and then I need to edit that interview. I won't do that tonight. I'm too tired. I loved our discussion over Scottish independence. Very upbeat. You changed my mind. Pardon you. Ooh, that was a wet one. Is accepted that the first European settler in the area, Thomas Small, calls his property Wheelgulga. It was derived from a word Wilgulga that was used by the local Gumbi Aborigines to describe a black apple tree. So that's what it translates to, black apple tree. A local tree that provided edible fruit. Wilgul. The tree grows to around 30 metres and the local Aborigines collected the ripe fruit soon after it fell to the ground. There you go. Interesting. Better out than in. Crikey. Crikey jings, geezer. Crikey jings, governor. When Scotland becomes independent, and you will, please give me a passport. Why would you need a Scottish passport? You're English. You'll have your own little blue, little Englander passport that you all fought hard for via Brexit. Why would you need a Scottish passport? How long have I been a radio presenter? Not very long. In the grand scheme of things. Since October 2019. Hi, Pablo. Would you all like to know the story about how I became a radio presenter? I say radio presenter, that's not my full-time job, but it is something that I do. Who wants to hear the story? I have told the story before. This might be repetitive. But, I do tend to repeat myself. It's the old age. Pablo, we've got comments coming through from Facebook. I'm very excited. This is my excited face. Can you tell the difference? Parents are from Ireland. So you could theoretically get a European passport. That's what I would do if I were you. Okay, well, I've been a radio presenter, community-based radio for 30 years. Well, That's 29 years you've got on me, Dave. Do you want me to tell you the story? Oh, you're so excited. Well, you're excited or I'm excited, RJ? No, can't tell. No, I'm a miserable git. I'm really not. I just come across that way sometimes. Okay, the story. The story is directly related to Periscope, in fact. Okay, let's tell the story. That music isn't too loud, is it? Can you hear me over that? Okay. Just double check that before I start telling the story, because I can switch it off while I talk if it's easier. Well, hello. Hello, RJ. You've switched over from Perry to Haps. Okay, cool. Right, can you all hear me over the music? Or is it too loud? And I'll tell the story. Okay. So, on Periscope, there was a chap who was on community radio in a town called Galashiels, which is in the Scottish borders. It's about an hour and a half away from Edinburgh, which is where I'm from, the capital. And I met him through Periscope, and he was doing a 32-hour non-stop radio broadcast to raise money for the radio station, because it's a community non-for-profit radio station. And as part of that, he'd asked me down to do a couple of hours. I'm a massive music fan and always have been. And as part of what I do on Periscope, quite often it is playing music in the background. People asking, what is that? And they'll go away and discover it and come back and say, I bought that album, you know? So he'd asked me down to keep him company, essentially, in this little cupboard in this community radio station. And we did an hour of synth, which is my sort of genre of, what's my favourite sort of stuff. Then there was like a 2-hour gap with pre-programmed things that they'd already put in the schedule. It was like Scottish, I think there was like a Run Rig special and something else. And then I stuck around and done another hour of Scottish bands, Scottish music. So I was there for about 4 hours-ish. And 2 of the committee members were driving back from a gig and had tuned in the car and heard me and turned up at the radio station at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was quite funny. The first thing they did was walk in and say, "You've got a great voice. Would you like to do your own show?" And that was it. They liked my voice and I was offered my own show. And that was maybe the March or the April 2019. And I found the footage because I was broadcasting on Periscope at the time. So this went out, this conversation happened live on Periscope, and then I recently found it, and the video's on YouTube somewhere. And I'm actually quite ashamed of how dismissive I was at the time. I was like, nah, because I hate the sound of my own voice. I think it's awful. And between the March or April or whenever that was, a couple of months went by and I thought, actually, no, this is something I would like to, it's an opportunity to learn something new. You don't often get an opportunity to learn something new. And obviously music's my thing anyway. So I agreed to it. And it was very dependent on, you know, where on the schedule I was, because obviously I've got other things going on and I run a business and I couldn't do a Saturday because most of my weddings are on a Saturday and stuff. Anyway, long story short, I did my first solo show in the October 2019, and I was kind of just thrown in at the deep end. My mentor didn't turn up. He went away for the weekend to Manchester without telling me that was going to happen and just left me to it, which was interesting. And yeah, that was that. So I've been doing it officially since October 2019, just over a year. But then I'd gone to Australia for a couple of weeks in March, and when I came back, lockdown had happened and they were wanting you to record from home. We weren't allowed in the studio because they'd locked the studio down. You weren't allowed in there. And they wanted us to record from home, but I had no equipment. I'm not a DJ. And everyone else at the station already had, you know, they were they'd come from that, or they'd been doing radio for years or whatever. I didn't even have a mic. I had nothing. So I had to buy all this stuff. I had to stick it all on a credit card to record from home, because I was doing that anyway and recording from home, I decided to switch to a local station. So I'm not at TD1 in Galashiels anymore. I'm at an Edinburgh-based internet station. But I mean, you know, okay, I spent all this money on this equipment and stuff, and I'm not getting any income because I'm a photographer to trade. All my jobs got cancelled. So that was interesting. But I chose to do it. I chose to do that. So that's my own lookout, you know. And that's the story. That's the story. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Story time. Do you know what? I still feel like I'm still learning. And to be honest with you, if I didn't feel like I was still learning something, I wouldn't keep doing it. That's the thing that's keeping me doing it, is that I'm still learning something. Hi, Mark. How's it going? Excuse me a second. I'm just about to blow my snotty nose. Sometimes needs must, you know? This year, well, I mean last year. Have you been chasing to do voiceover work? No, because I hate my own voice. Does anybody want to pay me to do any voiceover work? Would anybody like to employ me to do voiceover work? Well, hello, boys. I don't know, maybe I could get on that app, that sleep app. People say I've got a boring voice, it puts them to sleep. That's actually quite a decent cup of tea. That was my last Tetley tea bag. After that, I'm reduced to the Earl Grey. Oh, no, Mark. Terrifying. Terrifying. To be honest with you, I've been trying to not talk about it because it's quite scary. Scary times. Great, I'm still learning after 30 years. Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing that you won't ever know everything. Mel Gibson loves your accent. They'll take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. Why does he sound constipated in that film? That's what I want to know. Do you have a leggy jingle? I've got more than one leggy jingle. Do you want to hear my leggy jingles? The word leggy is never used, but I do have jingles. Well, are they jingles? I think you'd call them idents. Just saying it's out there if you want. What I am looking to potentially do, Dave, is syndicate my show to other stations. If I'm already putting all that work in to do, because I do put a lot of work in. It's only a 2-hour show once a week, but I put in hours looking for new music that I haven't played, or, you know, to try and not be repetitive, and then it takes me hours to record it. So if I'm putting all that work in, I would like to syndicate it to other shows so that it's heard elsewhere too. No, don't be daft. Don't apologise. Don't apologise, not at all. I just think that it's... Do you want to know what my views actually are, Mark? When I was watching this thing unfold, and several thoughts crossed my mind, and I don't know if you want me to share those or not. One door closes and another one opens. You just have to grab each option and see if it ticks the box. Well, I'm doing, like I say, I just finished a recording, an interview. I'd say it was more like a chit-chat, like a coffee chit-chat rather than an actual formal interview with a guy. Actually, I couldn't have had it with a better person. It was so cool, and it was so like it lasted more than 2.5 hours. and that was without putting any music in the middle. So if I didn't edit it, it'll be like a 4-hour interview. Like it was so free flowing. It was great. So I'm wanting to do more of that and then put those out as one-off specials. Let's hear it. My thoughts on what happened today. I feel like this was almost inevitable. When we first found out that Trump hadn't won, you could almost, from afar, because obviously I'm not in America, we're watching from outside, it almost felt like my first thoughts were, I remember saying it to other people on Periscope, there's going to be a civil war. He's emboldened these people. I was watching this thing unfold and I couldn't help but think that if it was people of colour, they would have already been shot and killed when they first, descended on the building and broke in. And I think that's wrong. I feel like the word terrorists won't be used, but essentially that's what they are. And I think it doesn't matter which side you vote for, you have to acknowledge that what has happened today is completely wrong. There are innocent people in that building. The president himself, whom they claim to support, could potentially be injured. Horrific is the word that the overriding feeling, that horrific but inevitable. And I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. Most people in Scotland aren't, actually, but that harks back to his treatment of people here before he became president. There's a famous story of a little elderly lady in her 80s who refused to sell her land to him, so he cut off her water supply. An 80-something-year-old woman, because he's a bully. And people in Scotland don't tolerate that. They don't take that lightly. He tried to bully the Scottish government. They were building wind farms offshore, and he tried to bully the Scottish government into not building wind farms offshore because it ruined the view from his golf course. However, none of that is relevant. What happened today is scary, and I think it's just the start of something. And I was told today, before any of this happened, I was told today on a broadcast that I should mind my own business because I'm not from America. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit and mind my own business and not talk about it because I'm not from America. Because apparently we're not allowed to have an opinion. So have my comments froze up, or has everyone left? It is Nina. Can you hear that? I'm a people person, Mark, and I don't prescribe to this idea that well, do you know what? I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm a socialist, and I know that the word socialist's a bad word in America because for some reason in America socialism is seen as communism. They don't seem to understand that most of Europe are somewhat socialist in their principles. And things like universal healthcare, and RG and I have kind of sort of touched on this in passing conversation. My fundamental belief is that 1% of the population should not own 85% of the wealth. It's just wrong, and that distribution of wealth should be, dispersed amongst the people, and the trickle-down effect doesn't work. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and I don't think in the 21st century homelessness shouldn't exist, particularly in the richest countries in the world. Having a roof over your head is a fundamental basic right, as far as I'm concerned. And that's my viewpoint. But other than that, I'm not getting into, American politics because it's very different. Your left and right isn't really left and right. It's two centres. It's two, you know, it's there isn't a left and a right. They're both two sides of the exact same coin, really. There's nothing particularly what's the word I'm looking for? Radical from your left, you know? When talking about the NHS, you know, to people in America is like, that's like extreme. No, we've had it since the end of the war, you know? Anyway, I'm rambling, and I kind of wish I hadn't started this because I'm going to go off on another tangent. If anybody in America wants to get a very quick recap on what it is I'm talking about, go and look for a clip from the film Sicko by Mike Moore, and look for the interview that he did with Tony Benn. Tony Benn was a legendary old school Labour politician in the UK who actually was aristocracy, and he had to fight in court to give up his title because when his dad died, he inherited a peerage, which meant he would have to give up being an MP, that's a member of Parliament, in the House of Commons, and forced to take a position in the House of Lords. And he didn't want to do that. He wanted to represent his constituents who had voted for him, so he had to legally fight to give up his title because he wanted to represent his constituents. A fascinating man. Probably one of the best politicians this country's ever had, and fierce opponent of Margaret Thatcher, who was leader of the opposition at the time. Go and check out the little interview that Mike Moore did with Tony Benn in Sicko, and you'll get a rough idea of what it is that I'm trying to convey, but he can do it in a much more articulate way. Sadly, we lost Tony Benn a few years ago. He was 80 something and he passed on, and I'm not going to lie, I actually cried when he passed. I was quite upset, but that's another matter. Anyway, I would say Tony Benn's probably my political hero, and that'll give you an idea of the standpoint I come from. Okay, I remember that farm. He pulled up loads of soil around it so he couldn't see the scrap. Yep. Australia got universal healthcare and private healthcare as well, so we've got both. So do we. We've got both as well. Of course you can pay for your, you know, if you don't want to wait on the list or whatever, of course you can pay for private healthcare. People don't seem to understand the principle of, you know, you pay your tax, it all goes into a big collective pot, and everyone gets access to universal healthcare when they need it. It's pretty fun. It's pretty basic, really. It's not difficult to understand. How are they going to react once Trump is officially out of office? Dare I say what I'm thinking? I see a repeat of history. I just thought it was... I had a weird exchange today in someone else's broadcast. I was sitting just, you know... Do you know what it was? Someone had said, it was before any of this kicked off at the Capitol, someone said, Donald Trump, the best president ever. And I think that's a pretty bold statement to make. So I questioned it. I was like, ever? Like, ever? You know, there have been 45 presidents and some of them have done some amazing things. Is he the best president ever? So I questioned it, and she started picking a fight in the comments, and I'm like, okay, if you think this is an argument, then you've clearly never had very many arguments. No, a fight, sorry. She said I was trying to have a fight, and I thought, you've obviously not seen very many fights, and you've obviously never been to Glasgow, because in a fight you'd get headbutted in the face. Like, I'm asking a legit question. Strange. Hi, Space Love, how are you doing? Trickle-down effect, try and tell her to Australian government. At the moment, they introduced a bill for workers in the hospitality industry and cut the penalty rates, and the Prime Minister said that the trickle-down effect would benefit everybody. It didn't. No, of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. But she said I was trying to pick a fight Molson, and I wasn't. I'd only asked, like, forever? Like, the best president ever? Really? And she was like, I can't remember exactly what was said. You know what? I'm paraphrasing, but basically it was, shut your mouth, you're not even from the US, so mind your own business, like, who are you to comment on it, kind of thing. And I thought, actually, if anything, we've got a clearer indication of what's going on because we're watching it from a neutral standpoint. Like, none of us voted or didn't vote for him, so we're we can go by what we see, and the man's a clown. Anyway, I'm rambling. And I didn't want to talk about it because it's on everybody else's broadcasts, and that's fine. And I've been in those broadcasts, and it's fascinating, and I want to know what's happening. But all she had to do was give an example. Exactly. All she had to do was say, well, yeah, he's done this, 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 and this, and give me a list of wonderful things that the man's done. She didn't do that. I wonder why. I wonder why she didn't give me a list of wonderful things that Donald Trump's achieved in his 4 years in office. Because that's what I would have done if I was, claiming that he was the best president ever. I've been very interested in all of the people I spoke to from out of the US today. Seemed like this was no big deal. Oh, I completely disagree with that. It is a big deal. Some people would say it's treason. I would say it's terrorism. And I think that if it was people of colour, they would have been shot already. And I think that sort of sums up what we see from the outside when we're watching America. It's quite horrific, really. It is a big deal. Absolutely a big deal. It's not protesting when you break into the White House. It's not. Agreed, Molson. I remember saying there's going to be a civil war. The thing is, Trump is such a petulant child, okay? He's not going to leave the White House. They're going to have to drag him kicking and screaming, holding onto the pillars, and, like a 3-year-old child in a supermarket having a tantrum. That's what it's going to be like trying to remove Trump from the White House. And he's emboldened all these people. Most of them are quite poorly educated, and they're, they'll just do as they're told. It's like a cult. %50 Scot, 50% Irish. I just, the word fight, I was like, no, you've never been in a fight, missus. I also concluded that she'd never been in a school debating team because asking a legit question is not starting a fight or starting an argument. It's asking a legit question. And the way that happens is it provokes a conversation. It's a two-way thing. So you say something and then that person responds to you. They don't just say, shut up and don't address me and then block you. It's like, okay, you're a bit unhinged. Not that I'm a mental health professional, of course. That's just an opinion, not a medical diagnosis. You're not rambling. I feel like I'm rambling, and it's 20 to 2 in the morning here, and I still haven't started recording my radio show. I need to crack on with this, or they won't put it out. It should have already been submitted, and they're getting quite sort of strict about that. The capital of the US has never happened ever before. Exactly. It's quite scary. It's setting a precedent for, it shouldn't have been. It's almost like it feels like it's been enabled, Lee, I know 2020 was interesting, but 2021's interesting too. Hello, Professor. Comparing him to a kid in the sandbox next, getting his way and taking the... Yeah. Like a toddler throwing a tantrum in the supermarket. That's how I would describe it. I'm glad the professor's popped in. I was just saying the other night, Professor does a music chat broadcast. And I was in there the other night, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was trying to sleep. I'd been trying to sleep for 3 hours, and it just wasn't happening. So I logged in, popped in, and it's weird. Like in his broadcast with that particular group of people, it always feels like home. It's hard to explain it. It's like, you know, it's a lovely vibe in there. He is surrounded by enablers, you're right. I can imagine that it's quite frightening, Space Love. How close are you? I forget where about in America you are. You're not anywhere near this madness, are you? You didn't keep me up. I just couldn't sleep, and I was like, okay, I'll go see who's live. Get out of your video so you can go and do some work. Thank you again for expressing your views. Oh, I've no intentions of doing that just now. I'm having a chat on here. I'll go when I'm ready. I'm not ready to go anywhere yet. Don't think I was hinting for you all to sod off. I'm having a chit chat. Yeah, no, I think that's the worry, is that, you know, worried for people who are nearby, and in case any kind of unrest does kick off. Hi, Jason. How full is my cup? It's about a third full, but it's getting cold. And that was the last Tetley tea bag. So I'll go make some Earl Grey tea. There's been a few interesting things that have happened over the last couple of days, and I don't know whether to talk about them or not. But obviously I was having a conversation with a musician earlier, and I feel like creatives should be being supported rather than exploited. And had okay, I'm going to throw this out here. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm going to tell you a little story. Okay, story time with Auntie Helen. All right. What's on tap for your show? What's on tap for your show? I haven't sorted my playlist yet. I don't know what I'm playing. I'll do that later. I'm actually really tired. You know what? I might just say, look, lads, I'm not feeling it this week. Just repeat last week's show. I could do that. I'm sorry to disappoint any listeners if that is the case. What was I going to say? Okay, story time with Auntie Helen. So, obviously, a lot of you know that I've been around on Periscope for a long time. Some of you don't know that, but most of you do. And this guy who's local to me, followed me on Periscope, but also on what is now my private Instagram, but it wasn't locked up at that point. It was just, I had 2 Instagram accounts, and one of them was what became a private one, and one became a radio one. And this guy followed me on my Instagram and also on my Twitter, right? So this guy knows who I am because he's following me on at least 3 social media platforms. And he only came to my attention because I was going through my private, when I locked my other Instagram down to make it private, I was going through my followers and I thought, who's that guy? I don't know who that is. So I did a little bit of digging to try and figure out who it was, because obviously I only wanted friends and family and people that I actually know on that one. And when I dug a little deeper, this is someone who has tried to start up a radio station, but instead of... Okay. I did actually have a rant about this on Twitter at the time, but I'm trying to explain what it is I'm trying to say. In community radio, we often volunteer, all right? We don't get paid for it. I don't get paid to do my show. I do it for the love of the music and the hope that someone somewhere will discover something new that they haven't heard before. This person wants to charge creatives for their work and charge them for a spot on his radio station, which is non-existent, by the way. That it doesn't. There is no station. There's a website for it, but there is no actual nothing being broadcast out, and there's nothing on the schedule. Right. Essentially, it looks like a massive scam. And I was looking through the thing, and I'm thinking, that's completely the wrong way around. A radio station has potential to make revenue by selling advertising or whatever. You don't charge creatives for working. You don't, if anything, creatives should be getting paid. But obviously, in a situation on a community radio station where it's non-for-profit, it's, volunteering and doing it for free. That's that's your choice or whatever, but it's not, you're not paying to do your job. And this person is on HAPS. And I happened to be in a broadcast that he was on, and I was just listening for a few minutes, and he brought up the fact that he'd tried to set up a radio station and how difficult it was. And I had said it was probably difficult because you were trying to exploit creatives by charging them for their work rather than, for anybody who's doing that is appealing to ego. Okay, they're appealing to someone who wants to have a show broadcast somewhere for their own ego. It's not about, you're not going to get very good quality work either, are you, if someone's willing to pay to be exploited. Anyway, what I found interesting was his reaction to that. Now, he'd already been in my broadcast a few days earlier asking which station I broadcast on, knowing full well which station I broadcast on, because he's followed me on 3 social media platforms, and it's also in my bio. It felt like a little sort of snide, when it's hard to pick up on tone when someone's speaking, but you can kind of pick up a vibe that's a kind of snide, underhand, what station do you present on, Helen, right? I was like, well, you know which station I broadcast on because you followed me on every social media platform. Anyway, in this broadcast, Dad says, well, maybe it didn't work out too well because you were trying to exploit creatives rather than promote them, charging them to work for you. And his response to that was, oh, there's somebody who doesn't agree with what I've done. As if he didn't know who I was. And he knows who I am because he's followed me on 3 social media platforms, and he's followed me on Periscope for quite a long time. And I can't be bothered with that sort of underhand, two-faced, sneaky vibe. Why not say to me, oh, Helen, you don't agree with what I've... He made out like he didn't know who I was. Or there's someone who doesn't agree with what I've done. Anybody who wants to charge creatives, there's already a major issue with people expecting creatives to work for free. As a photographer, I've encountered this. Oh, my mate's got a camera. Can you're just clicking a button. Oh, I'll just get my mate to photograph my wedding. He's got an SLR, whatever, right? There's already an expectation that creatives, it's just for fun, so why would they get paid for their work? But to then go the next step and physically charge someone to work, there's a lot of work goes into producing a radio show. To charge someone to try and make a profit from them, to exploit them. I'm sorry, it's exploitation. If somebody wants you to pay to work, to pay to do your job, they're exploiting you. Don't do it because your ego wants to have a show somewhere to say you've got a show on a radio station. Don't do it. Just don't do it. And I can only think that the kind of person who would do that isn't a creative. They aren't a creative because the creatives don't exploit other creatives. And it kind of pissed me off. Not actually addressing what I'd said or explaining it or justifying it, just, oh, well, there's somebody who disagrees with what I've done. Yeah, I've disagreed with what you've done because you're a fucking exploitative, snaky wee creepy cunt, basically. But I thought it was strange that everybody's gone quiet in the comments. Nobody's got anything to say about this. If someone wants to charge you to do your job, or someone wants to charge you to work, they're exploiting you. Volunteering's a different thing. Volunteering and offering your work for free is not ideal, but it's you know, it's the norm in this industry in community radio. But don't pay for the privilege. It is. Thank you, Melbourne Dave. I'm glad you agree. It's exploitation. That tea's cold. Ugh. Cold tea. Right, we've had a rant about the man with the tiny hands. We've had a rant about the exploitation of creatives. What are we going to have a rant about next? I'm thinking of doing a weekly feature called Rant of the Week, where we get someone in. We get a guest in just to have a rant. What do you want to rant about, folks? Don't let anybody exploit you, charge you to do your job. Ridiculous. You know, providing them with content, providing someone with content that they can then sell to an advertiser to make money that way, that's already good enough without you having to pay for your slot on a station that's actually non-existent. Like, it just looks scammy as fuck. Sign you up. You can have your weekly rant. Make a list of things. Everybody needs to make a list of things they want to rant about and then just get it all out once a week. Auntie Helen's rant of the week. That's what we're going to call it. I think sometimes it does you good to get it out, yeah? Local talk show host has Bugs Day, the hour of rage each Friday. You call in and rant about what's bugging you. I love that idea. I think he's got a good thing going there. 30s of community-based radio. Over the years, I've seen them come and I've seen them go, all these fancy contracts. I think community radio, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but community radio over here is particularly difficult because you're usually trying to navigate committee members and ego. There are a lot of people who present in community radio who have massive egos, and it's funny that the ego often disproportionately matches the talent. So quite often you find that the least talented the person is, the bigger the ego. It's kind of what I thought about this person who was exploiting people, who's on here. Like, listening to him, talking, he's not particularly articulate or anything, but like I say, the less talent, the bigger the ego. I kind of hope you're listening on the outside because you know who you are. I kind of hope that you're hovering on the edges and you hear me saying this. I feel like I'm saying it directly to you, even though I won't name you. I think you're a bit of a dickhead, to be honest. Do I ever listen to Scott FM? No. Where is Scott FM based? Is that commercial radio? Or is that community radio? Regional radio station, Central and South Scotland, broadcast from... okay, so it's Leith based. But that's commercial radio, right? Because Grampian Television and ITV Borders owns it. So it's commercial radio. What made you ask that, Lee? Yeah, I've heard of it. Probably. Okay, I just did an eardrum infill that wasn't there. I just made that up. Normally I'm on the ball. I'm obviously getting tired, so I messed that up. More tea? I think it's too late for coffee. Maybe do more tea. What kind of genre do you play, Melbourne, Dave? What kind of music do you normally play out on your show? I always think this is fascinating. Listening to other people's... Why am I not able to get into my Facebook notifications? That's quite annoying. This comment is for me to count the lag, if any. There probably is some significant lag. I think they're working on that, though. Have we stopped getting comments from Facebook now? We had, very briefly, we had comments coming in from Facebook, and I don't see any more coming in now. And I can't get into my Facebook notifications to find out if people are commenting on the page. And maybe I'm missing them. That was too good to be true. No, I think what was said has come through. That's good. Yes, what you stated about community-based radio boards is absolutely true here in Australia as well. I thought it might be. Just remembered I used to love listening to a show that was like a chat show where people would phone in. It was quite popular. Just wondered if you remember it. Who was the presenter? It's 19 seconds. I know HAPS is working with server issues. They've had substantial growth. Correct, they have. And it's going to get worse when Periscope closes. Everyone's going to migrate over. Facebook are bad with copyright with music playing, so you may be cut off. No, it's not about the broadcast being cut off. It's about there's been an issue with people commenting on the Facebook page, but the comments not coming through. And it's been a universal issue with everybody casting to Facebook. But earlier, someone was commenting on the page and it came through. So that's why I got a wee bit excited. I was like, ooh, that looks like it's working now. Now retired, I used to play groups like... Oh, okay. Got ya. That's cool. Lee, if you can't remember and you're the one talking about the show, how the am I supposed to remember it? You're asking me if I remember something that you don't remember. I know that I'm good, but I'm not that good. God, I'm tired. Yeah, I must remember to message that other guy. I've had so many things I need to sort. I've been going against my own soul's warning. Because women have better memories. Not when they're caffeine depleted and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and they're sleep deprived and a bit zombified. I'm just not with it at all. I'm aware that I'm not with it at all. Do you know what I need? I need a cup of tea and a Ferrero Rocher. If I go away to make tea, will you guys stay here or will you all do a runner? Now retired, Marshall was known as symphonic rock. Used to play bands from the early 70s through to the 80s that was not commercial. See, I like the sounds of that. The biggest problem I've got with commercial radio is that it's the same 24 songs